everyone, Barbara Rankin here today with another video tutorial for ColourArte. Today I'm going to be working in my Strathmore Mixed Media Journal. It's 9 by 12 and it's spiral bound, which makes it easy for me to work on my pages outside of the book. And so I've removed one and we'll get started on that right away. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is prime the paper with white gesso, and that will prevent the paper from absorbing the paints and any mediums that we use during the process. And you can go ahead and speed the drying time with your heat tool. Okay, now that my gesso is dry, I want to add some golden retarder that I decanted from the big jar into this little one. And I'm just going to cover the background with the retarder. This will allow me a little more time to blend my colors on the surface. I've got two colors here of silks. I've got Carmine and Sunflower. And so I want to kind of mix these on the paper. Start with the lightest color. And this retarder is going to allow me to keep this paint wet a little bit longer. So like I said, I'm just going to actually blend the colors right on the paper itself, and that retarder is going to help me do that. Now I'm bringing a little bit more yellow back in. And now I'm going to spritz the whole thing with water and grab some paper towels and pull up some of that color. Do it again, pull up just a little bit more, and you get this really cool mottled effect. So while I was off camera, I went ahead and I cut out some of these pieces from this decorative napkin, and I went ahead and laid them out how I think I'd like them to be on my page. And the reason I did that is because I'm going to add some texture in here, but I really want to be able to lay my pieces flat. I want to decoupage them on a flat surface, not a surface that I've added paste or stenciling or anything to. So I'm just getting a general idea of what I want to do, and I can just kind of lightly draw some areas where I want to. I don't mind if I have stenciling in. And then I can take these off and go ahead and we will add some texture to the piece. Alright, I've chosen this stencil. It's a Diane Reevely stencil, and it is called Alphabet Border Small 5 by 8. And I'm going to use this textured section here, and I'm going to start with start in this little area here, I think. And I've got some Bria Reese texture paste in titanium white. So I tried this once before on another project, and when it dries very gritty, and I kind of like it. It was pretty cool. So I'm just going to use those lines that I drew as a guide to try to stay within so that I can add my decoupage papers on a flat surface later. So I fast forwarded now and I've done all these areas. If you get any that poke out a little bit too far, you can just take your spatula and scrape it off. And like I said, it doesn't matter if it extends past, because I've pretty much left plenty of room for my my decoupage pieces. And so go ahead and take your stencil and clean it off right away and close up your paste, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got some silks in Pixie Pink, and I was stirring it around with my popsicle stick just to make sure it was nice and smooth and creamy. And I'm also just going to take some and blob it on my page. So I'm just spreading it along the background, kind of in a random, uneven fashion, but I am trying to work the silks between the stenciled paste so I don't have really thick areas. I want the color beneath to show through. And look at the color variation. It is so pretty right there. That's really the color I've been going for. And I do want this little added pink in the texture. I think it's going to be really, really pretty. Now you can just stick your brush in there. I'm just having fun playing with it. I love this paint. It's so nice and thick and creamy, and if it's too thick, you can add a little water to your brush, or you can use the glaze medium from ColourArte, or any brand of glazing medium will also work. And as you can see, I'm taking the brush as I go over the textured areas. I can get it smoothed out one way, but then it kind of hangs onto it, so I've got to go the other direction to get it to go through. And I might just I've got a little water off to the side here that I've been cleaning my brushes. I'm just getting a very, very small amount here. I'm just going to give it a quick shot with the heat gun and try and dry it a little quicker, and then we'll come back for the next layer. Alright, I've got my napkin pieces cut out and ready to be decoupaged. I'm going to use DecoArte matte medium to do this, and because these napkin pieces are so delicate and fragile, you're going to want to add the glue to the art journal page rather than to the napkin itself, and then just carefully lay each piece down into the glue. And once you get it in position, then you can use the brush to gently add a light coat of the matte medium on top and smooth out any air bubbles with the brush as you go. So let me see how I had this before. I'm going to go ahead and put it in fast forward now because you saw me how I did the first one, and it'll pretty much be the same process. And just be very careful. Like I said, these napkins are very delicate. Off camera, I cut out another flower and a few leaves to add to the left-hand side of the page because I didn't like the way the flowers were all in a straight line along the bottom. I wanted it to curve up just a bit. And now that the glue is dry, I can cut off any excess of the napkin that is extending past the page. And one other thing I wanted to do was bring in some more of the sunflower to get that peachy color back. And so I took some of the sunflower in a very dry brush and just swirled it around where I thought there was too much pink. You may have noticed the color difference between the napkin flowers and the decoupage flowers. That background color is showing through, which is why I was going for the pink. And that is something you will want to take into consideration whenever you glue napkins to your background. Continue blending that sunflower color along your background until you like the result. Okay, we're going to play with some Twinkling H20s. I have 4 colors here. I have cyan white, sky blue, dreamsicle, and sweet lavender. And I have already activated them. All you do is just take a spray bottle, or you can use a pipette like this and just pull up some water and drip it down into the pot, or just give it a little spritz like so. Let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes so it'll get nice and creamy, and then you'll be ready to go. What I want to do is add a little bit of purple in here. So what I think I'll do is take a brush and just wet my background, not too much, but just a little. And I'm staying away from the decoupage pieces, but if you remember, they have been covered with a light coat of matte medium, so they're not going to just fall off on my paper. They are protected to a certain degree. And I just want to get a little bit more purple color in here. I don't want it to look the same as my magnolias. I think the background and the magnolias are kind of disappearing into the background. It's too much of the same color. So I'm just going to get a little bit of color here and see what I can do. And I'll quit talking for a moment and I'll just put this in fast forward and play with the purple color here and see what we come up with. And now I'm going to get a little more texture, and I'm just going to do a little spritzing with the water here and there. And I'm just going to let it sit for just a minute. And then I've got a baby wipe here that's dry now, and I'm just going to do a little lifting, color lifting here. And you can see where it's lifting the color just a little bit. And let me show you a close-up. You can see the little dots of white, similar to what you get with the Distress Oxides. I think it's pretty cool. Pretty cool effect. Next, I want to add just a few highlights into the flowers here. And I'm going to use the Cyan White Twinkling H20s to do that. And the easiest way, I think, to tell you how to do that is to get another napkin that hasn't been used, obviously, and look at the brighter colors on the napkin itself and just kind of follow that. And wherever it's lighter is where you'll add the white. And we do want to keep it transparent. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of this. And I don't really want it too wet. And I'm just going to, following the flowers on my napkin, I'm just going to kind of look at it, and it does have shading lines on it anyway. But I'm going to give it a bit of the color, the white overall. I was playing around with this, so I've done a little testing, if you will. And you can see this is this white Twinkling H2O is not as translucent as your other colors are going to be. But it is going to dry lighter, that much I can tell you. And what I thought, one of the things I tried was to add a little bit of dreamsicle back in while this is still wet. And you'll do that along the areas where the shadow lines are given to you in the print. It's really super easy because, trust me, if I can do it, anybody can. And I'll leave that at real time for this first one so you get the idea of what I'm doing here. And then fast forward after this flower. And I'll go ahead and hit it with the heat tool. There is quite a bit of water on this right now, so and you can see how that brightened that up a little bit. Still a little damp, but and of course if you want less, you can always take a clean part of your of your towel and dab it off. You can come back in with a little more water, move it around some more, which I kind of like that effect. It's kind of mixing the dreamsicle with the white and giving me an even paler version, so it's not quite white. So let's try another one. So continue painting the flowers with the cyan white, then adding some shading with the dreamsicle, and blending and shading the two colors. You may have noticed by now that the colors on each flower are becoming more cohesive. So you may have noticed that I lost some of the blue. Let me show you on the napkin. I lost some of the blue in the butterfly because of the colors that are showing through. So I'm going to bring some of that back, similarly the way I did with my peachy colors. And I'm going to use the sky blue for this, and I'm just going to kind of work it in where I want it. I'm using a damp brush and simply picking up the color from the pot. But if you find the color is too opaque and covering the details of the butterfly, then you can add a tiny bit of water to thin out the color and make it more transparent. Continue coloring in this way for both butterflies. I'm going to use a black fine-tip Sharpie pen to redraw the butterfly's antenna, since some of the mica in the twinks has covered them up. While I have the pen, I want to show you how you can add some of the details back into your flowers. However, make sure your paint is completely dry. This pen has a felt tip and could be ruined easily if you try to mark with it into wet paint. I'll only do this one flower on camera and finish the pen work for the rest of the flowers later. So here's a closer look at that pen work. Now you could stop right here if you wanted, but I noticed that the stenciled paste is looking a bit white on the surface. So for that I'm going to use my Radiant Rain dabbers in Passion Fruit and Solar Gold. You need to shake these up really well to distribute the mica throughout the fluid. Just press the top against your craft mat to get it started. Then dab the color over the textured area directly on top of the paste. Continue dabbing the passion fruit over the entire background, but avoid coloring your decoupaged pieces. Just get the color as close as you can. Next, shake the Solar Gold Dabber really well and start dabbing that into the already wet paint. You can use your brush to move the paints around and to also get that color in the smaller areas between the flowers at the bottom. So now I'm just using a dry towel to sop up some of that excess color. So I thought because I have um, blue in the butterflies, I didn't have blue anywhere else. Unfortunately, my camera wasn't running at the time, but basically I just took some of the blue out of here, made a wash, and then with my brush, and then sprinkle it on. And I went all over, and wherever it hit on the flowers, I wiped most of it off before it dried. Some of it is still there, and I don't care. I think it looks pretty anyway. So it's up to you. You can cover your flowers better than I did and spritz over it if you want, but I did want it to come down here as well. So that's what I've done so far. Let me give you uh, a glimpse of it. It's still not dry yet, but it will be pretty soon here. And you can see where it uh, got a little bit down on the bottom, just to keep it cohesive really. And let me show you that pretty gold shine in there now. I think that's just so pretty. And the gold will sometimes obliterate where your pen works, so I'm just going to go back over that once this is good and dry, and I'll draw in the antenna again. Alright, so I've done my pen work around my flowers. I've added some details to my butterflies and redrew the antenna so that they would show up. And I will post some still photos at the end of the video for you to get a better look. But I do want to point out that I did use a Uniball Vision Elite black pen. This is a rollerball type of pen. It is permanent once it's dry, but be careful, sticking your hand over it. You could smudge it, so I kind of worked left to right, so I would keep my hand out of the way. And then I dried it really well with my heat tool. And now I just want to add a little bit more black texture to the background. So I've got this old set from Tim Holtz. It's Slight Alterations, CMS 060. And I'm going to try this one here, and I want to add some more black in just to get some texture in the background. I'm going to be using Ranger Archival ink in black, and I'm just going to ink up a section of this. So I'm just stamping that texture image around the background randomly. And now I just want to distress the edges with the black soot distress ink. This will add a framing effect to the page and draw the eye to the center. Now I'm just using a craft knife to cut away that excess napkin that covered the holes for the book. Okay, I love my quote chips from Tim Holtz. Let's say, today is full of beautiful possibilities, thoughts and theories. Lucky is a state of mind. Creativity takes courage. There's just a lot of things we could use here. I'm thinking this size here might be a good size. Let's see. Trust your heart. See the world. Remember the now. Uh, curiosity. Collect beautiful moments. I think that's a nice one. Collect beautiful moments. That kind of makes me feel like that's what this is, a beautiful moment in nature. So the first thing I want to do is distress the edges with black soot distress ink. And I also feel like the background is too white on that. So I'm just going to take a little bit of the Dreamsicle Twinkling H20s and add that to the background and then heat it with my heat tool before adding it to my background with some good tacky glue. And then I'm just going to set it aside to dry. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Follow these links for more inspiration from the ColourArte design team, and don't forget to subscribe to the ColourArte channel. You can find me on these social media links, and I would love for you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. That way I'll be able to continue to share my projects and tutorials with you in future. Thanks for watching, and remember to always take time to play.